Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. So today I'm going to talk about why you do inner work on your conscious state. So when you have a state, right, what a state is if you take it literally, the states of America, they're defined parameters, right? So a state is a defined parameter. When we talk about occupation of a state, what that means is inserting our consciousness into the state. So when people talk about free will exists, but only within states. So if you have a state of expression that is not in alignment with what your desire is, then your free will is limited to that state. So if you have a state of abundance, right? And what is a state? A state could be defined as a feeling, could be defined as a mood. An occupied state is essentially a mood that you carry around with you. So if I have the state of abundance right here, right, that means that chronically around me, if you were to take a look at the energy field around me, that vibratory rate, much like a cloud, is in alignment with the idea of more than enough, right? So what that means is if you think about occupying a state, how would that feel? How would it feel to have more than enough? It would feel like relief. It would feel like freedom. It would feel like choice. All of these descriptors define the state within which you are perceiving. So your job is to occupy that state. What does that mean? So when you're in a state, you act from the state. You don't think of the state, you act from the state. Meaning that if I'm in a state of abundance, I want to bring that end goal here right now. And what that does is that would recalibrate the way that I'm thinking. Meaning that if I have been fearful my whole life, and I've been in a fearful state, and I've been tightened and constricted and in a prison and all of these different things, and like, oh no, this is going to get me if I do this. The antithesis of that state would be expansion, would be relief, would be the ability to operate as I see fit, right? So how do we shift states when our third dimensional reality is not really the way we want it? Well, we have to work inwards first, because when we work in our internal state, what that does is that gives us permission to not be conditionally influenced by the outside world. Meaning that if I'm trying to get rich and I've never had money, well, if I take action to go get money, I'm still carrying around that state of poverty, right? And this is a metaphysical conversation. This isn't a put off things or whatever conversation. This is a metaphysics, vibratorily aligning conversation that takes into consideration the effect of quantum mechanics in terms of how the law of attraction lines you up with effective results or non-effective results, right? So when you take action, you want to understand that primary to taking action, your state that you're in will define your results. And how do you get into the ideal state? Well, you want to identify that state first. You want to change your internal world to reflect as if you already were in that state. So if I'm going towards abundance and I've been in scarcity, I'm in a scarcity state, I've decided to go to abundance. How do I start shifting into that state? Well, first I will rewire my internal conversations, because my internal conversations, there's two different ways that they could go. They could be in alignment with a scarcity reality, or they could be in alignment with abundant reality. When I have a scarcity reality, that is a direct third dimensional printout of where my state has been chronically dwelling. So don't worry about that. That's an effect. The world of effects is always changing. So when you have new causes, new effects come. So what this does is it gives you a power position to change your third dimensional reality by working exclusively within your own sovereignty, meaning that you don't need to call somebody to do this or have this person do this before this can happen. You're starting to play in the realm of states, which is that fourth dimensional reality, which is the cause, which creates effects in the third dimensional reality. So as you go from an unwanted to a wanted state, the first thing that you do is you reorganize your internal dialogue as if it were happening the way you want it to happen now. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am abundant. What happens when you say that from a place of scarcity or a state of scarcity? You're just going into initially shifting it. Well, you'll have that state chronically squeeze in on you and try to get your attention again. So what do? You acknowledge that scarcity is a possibility and abundance is a possibility, and then you choose over and over and over and over and over again the rewiring conversations as if abundance was happening now. Now, the thing that will trip you up is that if your third dimensional reality comes and tries to show you something from a scarcity paradigm, you have to accept that and be like, cool, that's not me, I'm this. And you reorient back to the root of the causation of all effects, which is that internal state, and you keep working it. And what will happen is as you start to shift it, what you want to focus on is normalizing that state. You're not trying to immediately affect the external world, because if you immediately try to affect the external world is a delayed effect. So what happens is if you try to change the external world too fast, what happens is you can get caught in a feedback loop where you're doing the correct things internally, but you're also placing awareness on things not happening, and that creates a jank in the system, meaning that I'm doing this correctly, but this hasn't showed up here, so you're using this as the condition to define the efficacy of this, and that creates jank, because if you've been in a scarcity mindset for more than a year and you've been doing repetitive affirmations for a couple of days, that scarcity mindset simply has more momentum. Now, a caveat with that, you want to look at states not from a time length standpoint, right? You don't want to be like, hey, I have to do this many affirmations before I can do this, or I've been in this for this many years, so I have to wait this long to re-engineer this, because that's all perceptional, right? So if I perceive that a state's going to take a long time to shift, then it will play out that way. So you want to always understand that everything is right now, and you want to perceive things the way you want them to be, and you want to make your perception of them more important than a factual assessment of the thing, because the thing is defined by your conscious or unconscious assumption of how it's going to be. So when I consciously choose an assumption, I say something that has been difficult is now easy, and I hold that assumption like a fucking karate stance, and I sit there and I go, this is easy, this is easy, this is easy. What can happen is if I've had a previous belief that it's not easy, this thing can nip at me, bite me, show me a bunch of different bullshit in 3D saying, look, this is how it is. Look, you're not going to get what you want. Look. My job is to maintain the assumption. My job is not to claw and fight with the old reality that's trying to suck me back into it. My job is to hold that assumption, right? This is easy. This is the way I want it. This is this. This is this. This is this. And if I hold that assumption, that old reality will die, and that new assumption will plug into its place, and now the third dimensional reality is going to show me a reflection of that proper assumption. So when you work internally, it's about, at the core level, your assumption and your chronic attitude and mood. Attitude has been hijacked sometimes by self-development things, so don't put too much of an importance level on that. Just understand that your inner world is under your control, and that inner world is a precursor to the external world, right? So if you're to simplify everything, so if I want to get something that is logically not possible from my purview, I want to understand a couple of things. Number one, that my perspective on that thing is just a set of programs of what I've experienced in the past. So it has no bearing on what can be in the future, right? That's just a current assessment, right? So don't put factual evidence on your current perception of how things are, because with more knowledge, you gain more capability. So with more knowledge, you gain more power, right? So you don't want to look at something from a disempowered standpoint. You always want to look at it from, if this were the way I wanted it to be, how would that state feel? And then as you start to move into that state, now you're going to understand that you have not been in the favorable state, so you can't judge yourself, because if you judge yourself for not being in the ideal state, you're going back to not being in the state, so that will stick you to the old reality, so you have to eliminate all the judgment. You just say, okay, I was unconscious, I was in this state, didn't produce the results I wanted, this is good, gave me the data and input that I need to discern what I want next. So now I'm going to enter in the state of having what I want. Now, when you enter in that state of having what you want, what you'll realize is it doesn't feel normal to you, because you've been putting down tracks and grooves into the old state that state by default is going to be easy for you to slip into. So what you want to do is start practicing daily, temporarily being in that state. So if I don't wear bracelets, but I want to go into a state of wearing a bracelet, do I go and get a bracelet from downstairs and put it on my hand? That's a viable option. But if I'm using my fourth dimensional reality and I'm using something simple like wearing a bracelet to understand the metaphysics of how reality is created, what I would do is I would start to feel as if I had that bracelet on 24/7. And then what will happen is once you imprint a emotional feeling state grid of having a bracelet, your body, people, places, and circumstances will conform to that emotional grid with which you have laid. Meaning that if I lay down the energetic fourth dimensional imprint, the assumption that I always have like a bracelet or a watch on, I will get a gift for a watch. I will open up my drawer and find a bracelet. I will have somebody drop a bracelet and say, hey, don't worry about it, keep it. And that is very important to recognize the causal and effect relationship between energetically laying down a grid and watching the third dimensional reality conform to construct the physicality of it. Because once you have that mechanism understood, you start using it on small things. Oh, I forgot my car keys. Let me use my mind to feel what it feels like to have my car keys now instead of looking for them all over the house like a madman. You just focus on the feeling of having the car keys, and then you watch your body automatically go and like look under the bed, and boom, you found them. That's the skill set that you're looking to build. That's the turning point where you have metaphysical mastery and understanding of how to use these states to cultivate anything from new income streams to cars to changing your physical appearance to changing your energy levels. You do the emotional state work first and you normalize it through repetition. And the more you normalize these states, the better you get at them. And now you've got really solid creative control over every aspect of your life. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you enjoyed the content about different videos that you would like made. Additionally, the Linktree has coaching if there's something that you're looking to ship or you just want to download all of this information a lot faster from me personally. So definitely check that out. Other than that, have a great day and go conquer. I'll see you in the next one.